Bandai Card Fest, a gathering of all the different card game players together, the summit of the best in the form of national tournaments, and a dumpster fire of lines and scalping. Yeah. Hello, Internet. I am the hero of Julios. Once again, with another. That's funny. I usually just start this by saying, hello, Internet, hero of Julios. Once again, with a One Piece video. But this time, it's not just One Piece. I am, of course, wearing a One Piece t shirt because that's my main thing. But actually, I'm talking about the Bandai Card Fest that happened recently in Dallas, Texas. My brother got into the national tournament. I myself fought to the tooth and nail in the last chance qualifier. Unfortunately, I was a green Zoro player. I know, horrible. But I was fighting against three yellows in a row, and at least from my personal experience, yellow is the bane of Zoro's existence. Every time you hit them in the face, they just heal, and then you lose. But I'm not here to talk strategy today. Today, I'm here to talk about the Card Fest as a whole. For those of you who don't know, hello, welcome to the channel. Bandai Card Fest is a event that the company Bandai hosts to gather all their players together, kind of have a showing of new cards coming out, an appreciation for cards that have already come out, as well as showing off newer things like new card games or new sets to come out for said card games. In addition to this, they have at the same time the finals for the Digimon card game, the One Piece card game, the Dragon Ball card game, and this time they had the regional for the new Gundam card game, I believe, as well as a tournament for Union Arena, I think. So I will say I'm a little hazy on non-One Piece related details because I myself am a One Piece player specifically. Used to play the Digimon card game for a bit, but when One Piece came out, it was kind of a chase two rabbits, you'll catch neither, so I had to make a choice. I would love to go back to the Digimon card game, which kind of will segue into some of my opinions on some of the things that happened in the event itself. But to give you a rundown on who's talking here, this is from the perspective of a One Piece player. I don't know how the experience went for the other types of card games. As a whole, though, I can say there was a lot of room for improvement. If this is your first video on my channel, I am not a card game channel. I talk about the new One Piece chapter. I talk about the new One Piece cards when they come out. I'm a big One Piece fan. I also make the One Piece Monster Manual for those of you who play D&D. That video series needs to actually come back into the light now that I'm thinking about it. Regardless, though, let's get into the actual event itself. I have here in my hand a list of notes. I wrote down the good, the bad, the ugly of Bandai Card Fest. Things that I think went very well, things I think that could be improved upon, and things that just shouldn't have happened to begin with. But personally, I think it's always good to start off with good. If you're really going to try and get someone to understand where you're coming from, it is good to sandwich your criticism between compliments. And I think Bandai did do a lot of things really well. For starters, I like the idea that all the card games come into one place. I like the idea that Digimon players and One Piece players can talk about mutual interest, enjoyment of card games, the discussion of different mechanics, and sometimes maybe someone will even pick up a new card game along the way. I'm a big One Piece fan, and if I had the budget for a second card game, I would definitely be a Digimon player again. If I could see someone who likes One Piece, never tried the Digimon card game, but now he's here, now he's got a bunch of Digimon players to talk to, maybe now's the time for him to scoop up a starter deck and give it a go. This is good for Bandai business-wise, as it reminds players of their individual games that other games exist, and even if one of those players takes up a side game, that's a win for a company. Another great thing that was there was the live stream. I really like the idea that there were, general discussions and interviews about upcoming sets or new mechanics or things that are happening, as well as the discussion and display of card battles that were going on, the Digimon finals, the One Piece finals, some Dragon Ball matches. It was really fun to watch that stuff unfold. I will get into the negative parts of the live stream later in the video, but another positive part of the live stream I liked was that there was a live viewing area, a place where people could sit down, rest their feet, watch the live stream as it goes, and maybe even talk to a person next to them. Again, I love the sense of community. I think that's the most important part of Card Fest, is getting people together and having them just talk about the card games. Another great thing at Card Fest was the exclusive merchandise available at the card event. Now, before you start typing in the comments, we will talk about the negative parts of this later in the video. We are just talking about the positive right now. And the positive is merchandise exclusive to the event. I think that's a good thing. There were sleeves, there were Gundam mats, there were, I think, storage boxes that could be obtained. There were things that could only be got at Bandai Card Fest, and I think that is a good thing. We also had an area designated for players to relax and play their games together. This was the Players' Lounge, as they called it, and it was a good way for people to just sit down, rest their feet, play their games in a casual setting. No tournament, no, prizes on the line, just sitting and enjoying the game. Right next to that was a Gundam demo. Bandai's newest card game is the Gundam card game, of course, and they had an hour-long demo that you could take and learn the game with a demo deck. Your opponent would have one as well, or if there was none available, one of the people working there would also play against you. This would teach people the new card game, and hopefully people would then buy the new card game, obviously. Another great thing that happened at Card Fest was the LCQ. I myself participated in this. It was at least for the One Piece card game, a 1,700 plus player tournament. There was 880 tables being played at in the first round of this tournament. And man, that's a lot of people. If you managed to survive the 9 rounds with only 2 losses, you got to be in the actual Nationals tournament. Around 200 players managed to survive this massive tournament, bumping up the Nationals for One Piece to an 800-player tournament where it would have been only 600 because of the amount of invites that managed to get into the hands of players. If you are a solo player, you don't have a friend in the Nationals tournament that you're flying with, or you just didn't get an invite over the course of the year, I would not recommend coming all the way to Bandai Card Fest just to do that, because if you lose, there's really not much else for you to do. But for those of you who are traveling with a national qualifier, such as myself and my brother, this was a great way for me to at least try to get into the main tournament. And even though I lost, I was still happy, because I knew on Saturday, the day after, while my brother was in the tournament, I myself could play in the side events, because there were going to be side events all throughout the day. More on that later in the video. Another positive thing that happened at Card Fest, at least from a One Piece perspective, is the main tournament, though it started an hour late, ran smoothly throughout the rest of the day. There was very little to no conflict, aside from, I guess, a very heated argument happened near the end of, I think it was round 7 or 8 in the One Piece tournament. There was a very heated argument between 2 players. I don't know what it was about, but that's to be expected on a national level. Tensions are high, stakes are high, there's a lot of reason to get angry, so as long as it didn't break out into fists, then everybody should be okay. Going back to what I was saying about getting back into the Digimon card game, I was really happy that there was some announcements and a very small amount of information about the upcoming Digimon app. There is an app that's coming out for the Digimon card game. People will be able to play the game on their phone. I was a member of the beta test that happened for it, so from my perspective in that, you're able to get cards pretty quickly. It's not that hard to build a deck with it, so it'll be fun for me to know that there is a free-to-play way for me to still enjoy the Digimon card game in coinciding with the One Piece card game. I'll be able to play my 2 games at once. I just won't have a physical copy of Digimon, but my collection of cards is getting out of hand, so I'm really glad I have a digital card game to play again. Finally, and this is definitely a personal opinion, the scavenger hunt was an event that happened throughout the venue. You took your phone, they had like a little browser app you could get into where you had to answer 10 out of 15 questions. There were 15 boards throughout the entirety of the building, and you only needed 10, but you had to go up to the board, you would see the question, and then on your phone, it would be like A, B, or C. And based on the question on the board, you learned what the answer was, you answered the question, and eventually you got a small prize. I got a little chopper card. It's very cute. What I loved about it was the questions were in regards to the individual games. And if you, like me, did not play all the different Bandai games, you had to talk to other Bandai players. I talked to Dragon Ball players. There was the Gundam. There was one Gundam card where this character's holding something and her hand is blurred out. It says, the question is, what is she holding? It's not an A, B, or C, so you can't even guess. You have to type in the answer. And I am staring at this thing because I've never played Gundam. I've never even watched Gundam. I got no clue. Fortunately for me, person comes up, I ask them, it was a tomato. I mean, looking in the background of the card, you do see there's like a tomato bush, so I guess eventually you could figure it out yourself if you stared at it. But that was one example of me having to get help from someone else. As for One Piece players, I'm sure any of you who went there remember, there was this hilarious question about, it showed 4 cards from set 12. There was the Tashigi, Don Quixote Rosinante, Sanji, and Monkey D. Dragon. And it said, what is the number that Dragon has in his card? So it was a big question mark. And then next to Tashigi and Rosinante, it was the number 2. And then next to Sanji, it was the number 1. What do these 4 cards have in common? Nothing. They're not the same attribute. They're not the same color. They're not the same power. They're not the same cost. They're not even the same, archetype. Nobody could figure it out. Everybody kept staring at it. You could brute force the question because it was A, B, or C, 0, 1, or 2. But even after that, you brute force. You answer A. You learn it's 0. What does Dragon have 0 of that these guys have? The letter I in their name. That's hilarious. I shared a great laugh with many people about it. That was probably one of my favorite memories of this event. So, Bandai, as far as the scavenger hunt goes, no need to change it. I think it's perfect the way it is. The line was terrible, but that's just because so many people were doing it because there was nothing else to do. Which, honestly, aside from a statue of Renamon to showcase the new Digimon app and the fact that there was really nothing else to do aside from eating some overpriced food, I'm afraid this segues us into the bad. And unfortunately, there's just as much bad as there is good, which once we combine it with the ugly later, this is going to be the part of the video that just sounds like I'm complaining. So, let's get into it. Let's start it off. The live stream. It was a great idea. I really do believe that. However, I have a lot of friends who were back home here in the lovely place that I live, and they wanted to watch the One Piece card game. Just the One Piece card game. The nationals for the One Piece card game. That's it. They play that game. They want to see its finals. You want to see the apex of your game. You don't, have the League of Legends final and suddenly it cuts to Dota. You don't have the Overwatch finals and suddenly it cuts to Marvel Rivals. You wanted to watch the apex of your card game, and it keeps jumping to other games. Bandai, I get it. There's probably a budget involved. There's probably a lot of micromanagement required. But how is there not a dedicated stream to each of your card games? I kind of understand for Gundam, it's new. I understand for Union Arena, it's kind of a side game. No offense to Union Arena players. And I kind of get it for just like the general stream, that you didn't want to make big, huge, dedicated streams to just little interviews and things like that. But you could have streamed One Piece all day. In fact, you already have. So, unfortunately for you, you've already shown us that you can do this. One Piece Day. Now, I will argue in favor of Bandai. Bandai is not One Piece. Bandai is a card company. However, the One Piece card game, which Bandai is in charge of, was at One Piece Day, streaming 3 separate streams of each of their card tournaments. There were 3 regionals going on at One Piece Day, and I would know, I was there. With this knowledge in mind, how hard would it have been for you to live stream Dragon Ball, live stream One Piece, live stream Digimon, and then have a 4th stream dedicated to advertising things coming up, talking to card developers, talking to individual players themselves? And what was with the dubstep? I know people like dubstep. I even kind of like some dubstep, but there was so much dead air on your live stream of just, we'll be right back. We'll be right back. Something's coming up soon. 10 minutes till One Piece. 3 minutes till One Piece. Never mind, we're not doing One Piece. Here's something else. It was a mess, Bandai. And it shouldn't have been. I'll get to, at the end of the video, my suggestions for how to improve it, but what was wrong with it was the fact that it just kind of felt like nobody knew what to put on the screen, so you guys chose to put nothing on the screen. And that's worse than just putting something random. Going back to what I said about the scavenger hunt, I loved the scavenger hunt. I loved the Gundam demo. Like that's just, those are just great things to have happening at your event to really promote the unity of your card players and the budding beginnings of a new card game. Those were great decisions. They were also the only things to do at this event. And no, Bandai, unfortunately, I am not going to count the side events as something to do, but I will address that in the 3rd part of this video. And if you thought there was nothing for side people to do, just the normies with the general admission badge, imagine how little there was to do for the actual tournament participants. Now, I will also argue that what they're here to do is the Nationals tournament, but Bandai Card Fest is a celebration of the love of the game. People who want to play your card game. The top cut, the cream of the crop, the 1%ers, the most amazing players you have didn't get to enjoy anything else at Card Fest except their main tournament. I'm not saying you gotta pause everything for them, but how is there not something for them to do? When they finish their round, there's no, they can barely have enough time to do the scavenger hunt. It's not like they're going to watch the stream, because they are part of the stream. They are during the rounds. But there's nothing else for them to do. It's just, they just go and buy overpriced food. And I'll get to the overpriced food. And if you are someone who was at Bandai or with Bandai, and you're watching this video and you're saying, oh, well, no, you could have done this, or you could have gone and done that, or you could have gone and done this. No. I wasn't aware of insert thing you told me about here, because one of your biggest mistakes, Bandai, was the complete lack of communication going on. For example, I was in the LCQ, the Last Chance Qualifier, and I, unfortunately, didn't realize that if I dropped out, took my badge, and left, I would be forfeiting my prize wall tickets. That was not properly communicated. I don't care who says it was. If it was said once, maybe twice, and it was not properly conveyed, because some of your speakers there were just muffled, mumbled, kind of a mess. I was probably in the middle of a match if the announcement got made. There was just, and nothing on the website said anything about that. I am a little miffed, but I also concede I only probably would have won like 1 or 2 prize wall tickets, so it's not the end of the world. But the fact that it wasn't properly communicated that I would lose them is kind of a slap to the face. Even more so, the fact that some of your own employees didn't know this. And that's even worse. At least the people working this event should, if they themselves don't know an answer, know exactly where to look up the answer. Finally, the last bad thing I will bring up is the price gouging on food. It was like $14 for a bucket of popcorn. It was like $11 for a very small sandwich. I don't know why you thought that would be cool, but I will concede that that's not really Bandai's fault. So put down your pitchforks, everybody. That is Bandai's choice of venue. I believe it's the Kay Bailey Convention Center in Dallas. They saw an opportunity and they price gouged, which is pretty standard. I go to the Peoria Civic Center for a One Piece regional every now and then. They have a very strong no outside food and drink policy. Why? Because their Coca-Cola bottles are $5 each. When everybody knows a bottle of Coca-Cola is at most $2 at a grocery store. So yeah, the price gouging is definitely a venue problem. That's more of me just, since this is my part of the video where I complain, yeah, that sucked. You should just either pick a convention center that allows outside food, or maybe hire your own food vendors or something like that. Work out something. I know there's a lot more logistics than what I'm presenting here, but it's important to keep these things in mind too. Even the smallest detail can ruin an entire experience. Speaking of price gouging, let's get into the part of the video I have not been looking forward to talking about, the ugly. Whew, I mentioned price gouging, so I think it's only fair to start with the absolute ugliest, biggest problem with Bandai Card Fest, and that was the exclusive merchandise. I know, at the start of the video I said it's really cool that you had exclusive merchandise, and I firmly stand by that decision. What I don't understand is your method of choice for doing this. You had a QR code that people would scan, and on that website they would then schedule their appointment, and when their appointment came up they would get in line, and then they would wait in line and they'd buy their things and then they'd leave. On paper this sounds great. I actually do stand by it. It sounds like a great idea. You schedule your appointment, you go to the shop, that way you're not waiting, in line for 16 hours to maybe buy something. What's the problem here is the dishonesty of humankind and how QR codes work. This is a rumor. I don't know if it's true. If it is true, someone in the comments please make sure everybody else knows it is true, but I'm going to use the word allegedly because I don't know the full story. Allegedly, a judge or a Bandai worker or someone gave the QR code to their friends, and then their friends either sold or leaked it online so that anyone could use the QR code and get into the store before anyone else could. So all the reservation slots for the first 4 hours of the tournament were gone. And as they do, scalpers came in, bought one of everything, and proceeded to sell it on eBay. There's $9 packs of sleeves going for $50 on eBay right now. And to those of you watching this video thinking, man, I really wanted those Bandai Card Fest sleeves, I guess I'll have to pay $50. Please don't. Please don't. The thing that makes scalpers as powerful as they are is the power of FOMO. The only way we can stop scalpers is if we stop buying from them. I know it hurts because I too want the Bandai Card Fest sleeves. I was at Bandai Card Fest and I couldn't even get my hands on the Bandai Card Fest sleeves. So I can only imagine how someone who didn't have the ability to fly out to Dallas feels right now. But you can't let them win. So it sucks, but I will go without those sleeves until either the price goes down or Bandai re-releases them, or if by some miracle we get to go to the Las Vegas Bandai Card Fest when it comes in. I think it's February. If I get to go to that one, then maybe I'll get lucky and everything will improve and I'll be able to buy a $9 set of sleeves. But don't let the scalpers win. And for those of you, I do want to remind you, there is another Bandai Card Fest. So there is time for this to improve. There is time to go out to it. And there is time to maybe snag these items at a fair price. But Bandai, long story short, wow, that was probably the worst run shop I have ever seen you guys do. And the kicker, the thing that hurts the most, is you guys have done this correctly already. That's the craziest part of this. In fact, your main players, your I don't want to say they're the important people at this tournament, but let's face it, aside from very, very few things to do, the only thing that really happened at Cardfest were your national level tournaments. Those are the people you wanted to come here. Those are the people who got invited to come here. Those are the people who didn't get to buy anything because they had to go to their tournament. They didn't have time mid-tournament to run over to when the QR codes were hoisted in the air so that people could raise their phones and like snap them. Like it was like you were trying to capture a very rare Pokemon in Pokemon Go, and everybody just had their phones out. It was insane. I heard a roar from the crowd as these QR codes were held aloft. It was insane. None of the players could do that. None of the players in the tournament. They're trying to, figure out how to go for game against their opponent, how to get rid of that last life, how to get rid of that last, how to, squeeze that little bit of memory out of their opponent, how to go Super Saiyan. I don't know how the Dragon Ball card game plays. But it's not like they could have left their post. It's not like they could have gone and got a QR code. The store felt very anti-player. Going back to what I was saying before my little mini rant there, you guys did this right the first time, and that's what, because I went to Bandai Card Fest in LA the very first time you guys did it for the One Piece card game. You've done this already correctly. For those of you who don't know, if you were in the Bandai tournament for the Nationals, your Bandai, TCG Plus account had a little notification sent to it that said, okay, your account, link it to Premium Bandai, which I did, and then on Premium Bandai, pre-order what you want from Bandai Card Fest. I pre-ordered the mat, the special blue Luffy mat with him, in the big Gum Giant form. And then you pay for it. And then when you fly to LA, or was it? Yeah, it was LA. You fly to LA, you go to Bandai Card Fest, you wait in line for a little bit, you go up there and you say, hello, I'm the hero of Julios. And they go, oh, yes, we have that account right here. You ordered one playmat. Here you go. Thank you. And it was that simple. So how did you mess this up? How is it that your players, your main One Piece players, these people play with hundreds of dollars worth of alt arts and things like this, they couldn't get a set of sleeves? Meanwhile, this was the kicker. Meanwhile, while people are fighting tooth and nail just to get a QR code scan to get into an app that is crashing over and over again, and I would know because I was watching it crash on my phone, there was a dude who just had a bunch of, because he managed to get in line. I don't know his story. I don't know how he did it. Good for him, I guess. But he got a bunch of stuff from the event, waltzed over to the food court within eyesight of the main retail store, sat down and started selling things from the store for like 3 times the price. Bandai, a scalper literally scalped in the middle of your event and you did nothing. You created this environment and it only got worse. Now, I will say I didn't go Sunday. Saturday, the tournament ended. Me and my friends, we went back to the Airbnb. We were kind of beat, and I wanted to get up super early because I heard there was going to be a restock of this retail store. My brother was the one who put it in perspective. He said, man, Hero, do you really want to sit in line to just maybe get a set of sleeves? And I said, you know what? You're right. That's fair. Cut to the next morning, and I hear this lovely little story. So, this is a third eyewitness perspective. This is me hearing it from someone who heard it from someone. But here's how the story went from my perspective. If I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments because I'd love to hear the full story. But at 4 o'clock in the morning, some dude went to the convention center and stood in line. He decided there's no signs, there's nothing indicating anything. I am the start of the line. Because why not? Another person came along, got in line. Another person came along, got in line. Very civilized, very correct. This is how things are supposed to be done. Get in line. Some other dude showed up at like 5 or 6 a.m. and said, oh, I'm not getting in that line. That's crazy. I'll start my own line. And he did. On a different part of the building. Which I guess is fine. There's no signs. Bandai has left no indication of anything happening anywhere. So, now 2 lines have formed. As more and more people, they show up, they go, oh, I'm not getting in that long line, I'm going to get in this shorter line. And eventually 2 equally sized lines are now in existence. Cut to 7 a.m. You got big line A waiting since 4 a.m. You got big line B waiting since 5 a.m. You got a whole bunch of people, most of which don't know which line is the original line, mind you. Suddenly, employee opens up random door, not even close to either line, and says, this is the door to the store. The police got involved. That's really sad. The idea of card players fighting each other physically is comedic in theory. I have actually seen real fights break out over card games. I don't like it. I think that's tacky. I think that's it's a bad look for our communities as a whole. I like to brag about how peaceful the One Piece card community is as a whole. I think I, at my locals, have some of the nicest people playing this game with me. So to see this ugly side of our community is embarrassing. But when you create an environment where scalpers thrive, you're going to get the worst of the worst. We want a community where Yugi Moto and Seto Kaiba and Joey Wheeler are our top players. Really cool guys. Kaiba's kind of conceited, but you know his upbringing. You know where he's from. Yugi, really cool guy. Joey, really cool guy. But sadly, today I only saw the Rexes and Weevils of our community. That's embarrassing, but unfortunately, I can't say this wasn't Bandai's fault. Continuing on for things that are Bandai's fault, side events. I know I said when I lost the LCQ, I said to myself, that's okay because it's Saturday tomorrow, and while my brother is in the tournament, I will fight and get a whole bunch of tickets in the side events because that sounds really cool. I'll just get into a bunch of 8-man tournaments, maybe I'll lose round 1, maybe I'll win all the way to round 3, but it'll only take like maybe 2 hours per tournament because, it's just an 8-man tournament. I'll do those over and over and over again. Yeah, you don't get to do those over and over and over again. In fact, you don't get to do them at all. Bandai's method for the side events was you log into the Bandai app, maybe you got a notification on your app, and that notification took you to a list of tournaments that were available. Then you got to click on a tournament that you wanted to be a part of, and maybe when that time comes, you'll get a notification that says you're in. Why? Why did you invite this many people? Why did you allow this much general admission if you were going to use a lottery method to decide who gets to be inside events and who doesn't? A much simpler solution would just be to, okay, everybody who wants to be in a 32-man tournament, line up. All right, first 32 people in line, cool. You're all here for One Piece? Cool, because this is the One Piece line. Cool. Take this judge, go to those tables, play the tournament. The judge will, scan you all in. I am a TO at my store, for the One Piece card game. So I know how to use the app. I run a 30-man tournament almost every week. I know that this can be done by one person and a laptop. How is this not the way it was done at Bandai Card Fest? You just take the people, you scan their Bandai IDs, you start the tournament. A cell phone with a timer on it is all you need to keep things running smoothly. So alas, due to the lottery method, I didn't get into any side events. I spent most of my time doing this, I will say, stepping away from the ugly a little bit. I enjoyed the scavenger hunt. I think that was a ton of fun. Bandai, please don't change the scavenger hunt. Do what you did last time, because that actually was like one of the only things you did right, as far as good things you did. But other than that, there really wasn't much else for me to do, because there were no side events to do. Sadly, because there was a lack of things for me to do, one of the only things for me to do was sit and hopefully watch the live stream. I was going to sit, watch Digimon a little, maybe learn about what's coming up in the Digimon card game, or even see what strategies are going on, because, again, it's been so long since I've played the game, I'd love to see where it was at. Most of the time, the streaming booth was just, we'll be right back, which is a big issue to me. I don't understand how you didn't have at least something to cut to when the live streams weren't going on. I get it. The round ends. There's nothing left to watch. Cut from One Piece to Digimon then. Oh, that round ended as well? Cool. Cut from Digimon to Dragon Ball. I'll watch people play card games. I'm at Bandai Card Fest. Just let me watch something other than dubstep on a white screen. Another horribly ugly thing that happened was they ran out of walk-in promos. For those of you who didn't know, if you went to Bandai Card Fest, even as general admission, you got a special little packet of cards. They were cards from each of the different card games, and they were just little promos. A very cool one was the Afro Luffy. I'm very happy that I got this card, because it's just an alt art of a pre-existing card. The same goes for all of them. But it's the exclusivity that makes them so cool. And the fact that you took the time to go all the way to Bandai Card Fest to obtain these cards is what makes them special. However, they should also be incredibly common, because everybody gets them. How are you going to look me in the eye, Bandai, and tell me you ran out? What, are you just at Nevada, when we go to Nevada for, Bandai Card Fest over there, you're just not going to have any at all? Because, well, we used them all up in Dallas. Who would have thunk? And I get it. You only have so many printers. You knew at least how many people were going to show up to this. I had been signed up for general admission to Bandai Card Fest for months. Months, Bandai. So, me and several thousand other people, you should take a look at that. You should tell yourself, okay, we got 5,000 people signed up for the main event, plus the One Piece card game, plus the Digimon card game tournament, plus the Gundam, plus the Dragon Ball. This adds up to about 5,000 people. Let's make 8,000 cards. And don't give me the, oh, well, what do we do with all these extra cards? You have the next Bandai Card Fest. You have leftovers that you can then bring to the next one. Bring more than you need. This is the walk-in promo. I understand running out of product. I truly do. I understand running out of prize wall cards. I truly do. But the promo you get for just showing up should be the most common thing you have ever printed in your life for what is, by your words, Bandai, the biggest event of your company. I will admit this last complaint, this last ugly statement, is from more of a bias of my love of One Piece. You need to acknowledge that One Piece is your biggest IP. You need to acknowledge that One Piece card game is what is effectively funding the rest of your card games at this point. You even acknowledge that in the tables. I was there. There was at least 3 times as many tables set up for the One Piece main tournament than there were for your second and third largest games, possibly combined. I didn't sit down and count the tables, but you physically showed us that you acknowledge One Piece is your largest card game. You need to make more. You need to make more promos. You need to make more exclusive merch. You need to not sell out of the One Piece card game as quickly as you did at your store. Now, I know I'm complaining about the store a lot, but that is because it was the only thing to do. The only things to do at Bandai Card Fest were the super fun scavenger hunt. Do not change that. Watching a live stream that was 90% dubstep, and going to the store and buying exclusive merch, which got bought out, scalped, and then proceeded to be sold immediately next to your store within eyesight of your employees who did nothing to stop them. I'm not saying people can't sell their singles and their cards and stuff, but man, the fact that you guys were getting scalped right under your own noses, that's embarrassing. That's honestly, it's laughable that a company that big can't do anything to stop scalping. My final complaint is the fact that there was no signage. There was no indication of where anything was at any time. We had tournament zones 1, 2, 3, 4, which is fine. You don't know where you're going to put up the tournaments. You don't know which tournaments are going to happen. So there's no need to put, Dragon Ball tournament zone, One Piece tournament zone. You can just do tournament zones 1, 2, 3, 4. But there was no signs telling us where the side events truly were. There was no, I should say, there was a sign for side events. A big, huge sign that said side events. People would go up to this big, huge line at the side events and say, hey, is this the Digimon side event line? And they'd say, no, this is for Gundam. Oh, okay. Do you know where the Digimon one is? I think it's this exact same line. Really? You have 5 separate card games. You didn't think to maybe make some lines, some velvet rope, some tape on the ground? The convention center was the size of, a couple football fields. You can't just assume people know where everything is because you know where everything is. And something as vague as side events isn't very helpful either. More signs were needed. In fact, at the end of the One Piece tournament, I was informed, there was no indication of which lines were even for which prizing. Top 512? Who knows? Top 258? Who knows? I mean, maybe these are the cards. Maybe this is the right line. You'll know when you get to the end of the line and they tell you you're in the wrong line and they send you to the back of a different line. But yeah, no, poor signage, I think, was a big kicker for a lot of the disorganization. Honestly, though, going back to what I was saying about the ugliness of the fighting over the merchandise, Bandai, you need to do better. You need to do better on that. Now, I know that was a lot of complaining just now. There's a lot of negative things that happened at Bandai Card Fest, but overall, I do want to clarify I did have a great time. I met new people, talked to my friends, played the One Piece card game. I love the card game. I love One Piece in general. One Piece Day was a blast. Bandai Card Fest should be a blast as well. And it's because of that love that I feel that there are ways this could be improved. And if someone from Bandai is watching this, I would love to get some feedback on some of my own suggestions, which leads me into the last part of this video, my suggestions to fix it all. Sounds way more ambitious than it should be, because I will go on and say right now, I'm not an event planner. I don't want to pretend to be one. But I am the TO for my One Piece card game that at my locals, and I would like to think I know a thing or two about at least organizing 30-ish people together, and I think that's a good place to start. This is a very micro perspective, but it's better to end a rant with suggestions on how to make things better rather than just being angry. And I think that is a disingenuous way of presenting your thoughts on something. So I'd like to start with addressing the nothing to do problem. There was really not much to do. There was the store that you could buy things at, for better or for worse, and there were the scavenger hunt, which was, again, super fun, and then there were side events, which, again, were run poorly. The side events, I think, could be improved by the method I was mentioning earlier in my rant if you just set things up in a more mechanical way rather than a digital way. I understand that QR codes work on a small scale. It works when it is a small event of maybe, 50 people, maybe, 1,000 people at a regional. But this is your national tournament across 5 different games. You have so many people here, and they all want to do something. You can't just leave this to random lottery and chance. People get upset. So, give them something to do. Make the side events easier to handle. Make them more analog, where if you want 8-man events, line up 8 people, give them a judge, make the tournament happen. At the end of the tournament, the judge hands out the tickets. I'll get to the tickets in a minute. But the side events would be handled so much better if it was just something people could just flow into. If people don't want to just flow into side events all day, host another concert. You guys had, at the first Bandai Card Fest, the people who sang the opening and credits for One Piece. It was amazing. It was fun. There was Digimon concerts. I'm sure there were Dragon Ball concerts. I don't really remember. I don't play Dragon Ball. But you guys had musical guests available. In fact, the musical guests signed cards for some of the winners of the tournaments. That's awesome. I would have loved to have that happen again. For some reason, you guys looked like you didn't have it in the budget this time. And this is again, a perspective of one man, but it seems like to me you guys did have the budget, because, again, 1,700 people in the LCQ for One Piece alone. Each person paid $30 to be in that tournament. And yes, each person got booster packs. But it's not like it cost you guys $5 a pack to give us 6 packs. At most, I'll highball it for your sake. It probably cost you about $2 to make a pack of boosters. So, if you gave 6 packs to the player, that means it cost you maybe $12 to make those packs. You give it to the player, he gives you $30. That's $18 a player. That's a lot of money, which could have been spent on something like a concert, or, in my opinion, this would be even more fun, exhibition matches. A long time ago, I saw this YouTube video of, I think it was the voice actor of Kaiba and the voice actor of Pegasus from the 4Kids dub of Yu-Gi-Oh! They had a match using some of the new cards that were coming out at the time. I think this would be a brilliant way to showcase new cards for the One Piece card game or the Digimon card game. Like, I would love if Ty's voice actor went up against the voice actor for Diaboromon, and the two of them played an Omnimon and Diaboromon deck respectively. That would be amazing. Show off the 3v3 tournament type for the One Piece card game, where you have 3 members of the Straw Hat crew, Zoro, Luffy, Sanji, versus Buggy, Crocodile, and Mihawk. Have a Straw Hat crew versus cross-guild card match. That would be awesome. Yes, the matches could be scripted. I feel like that actually would be even more entertaining, because then you don't have just, Celebrity A shuffled his deck wrong, so Celebrity B just steamrolls him because he bricked. No. Actually have a scripted match. And show off new cards as they're about to come out. I know. You have the the PRB2 packs are already printed and shipped out to stores. I guarantee you have enough in ya to print out set 13 cards and showcase the new leaders for that in an exhibition match. It doesn't even have to be big meta decks either. It could be some silly deck. Have like a Foxy deck versus a Perona deck and just let people enjoy watching that. It definitely beats the dubstep white noise that we had going on. My next suggestion would be to allow for a singles shop. Maybe have a company unrelated to your tournament organizer hosting a singles shop, with the caveat that the singles shop isn't allowed to buy or sell anything that came out during the event. Those cards need to stay exclusive until the event is over. Then these stores can do what they do. But till then, let me go buy an Alt Art Vegapunk leader because I just need one for my collection. Or let me go buy a Dioboromon Alt Art because, again, I need one for my collection. Let players unload all the cards that they can't get out of their system in trades because, again, there's a shop to do it at rather than some scalper sitting in the food court. I would tiptoe with this idea, though, because it could get greasy really fast. So maybe just take that one with a side of salt and decide for yourselves whether or not that one's actually good for the overall card event. Speaking of stores, though, a hard 3, maybe 4 per customer rule. In theory, it sounds great that you guys did 1 per customer on everything in the store. However, that didn't really stop the problem. One guy can just get into the store and just take one of everything off the shelf. He doesn't even play One Piece. He doesn't even play Gundam. He doesn't even play Dragon Ball. But he knows those things sell. So, of course, he's going to buy them out and then sell them later for profit. That's not a person who wants to play the card game. That's just a person who wants to make money. They can do that anywhere else in the world. In fact, they do. Look at the problem Pokemon has. They have full-grown adults buying out entire shelves of cards, right in front of children, mind you, so that they can sell it to their parents for hundreds of dollars. Is that really the society you want to live in, Bandai? My suggestion is when players come into the store with the badge for the event, they can buy up to 4 things, maybe 5, maybe 3, it depends on what you guys have for stock. They get to buy those things, then a punch happens on their card. That's it. If you're not going to do what I suggested earlier and let the players pre-order things and just pick them up at the event, this, I think, is a safer method. It also prevents someone from just getting back in line and doing this again, which I don't know how they would have pulled it off, but I'm sure at least one person did. I was a former amiibo hunter back in the day, back in when Nintendo first started doing amiibos. I was the guy who sat in line and hoped to God that I would obtain a Bowser Jr. amiibo. And in fact, one time I even did take advantage of having a second person who did not care at all for amiibos with me. I had them buy a second amiibo with me, and with those 2 amiibos, I traded one for another one I didn't have. Because I'm not a scalper. In fact, the amiibo I traded away was worth way more than the one I received, so I just wanted to complete my collection. And as someone who likes to collect, it hurts when I see someone who doesn't care being the person who gets catered to in this scenario. Would this method result in the most sought-after items getting bought out first? Yes. Do the most sought-out items get bought out first anyways? Also yes. So, when I got to the store, finally, the last One Piece item got sold out right to the person before me. I said, you know what? That's fine. It's late. You guys are out of stock. Whatever. Let me get something from Digimon. Nope, Digimon was sold out too. You know, the option to at least get my second choice would have been nice. And that, I think, would be solved if we made a much harder rule about how much product a person is allowed to buy. Would it result in me not getting the thing I want still? Yes. Would it result in me not getting anything at all? No. I could get something. And a souvenir from this event, aside from my badge, would have been nice. As far as the main tournament went, I heard that the One Piece card tournament went rather well. I'm not exactly sure if that's the same for the other tournaments, but the One Piece card games started off about an hour late, but after that the tournament ran smoothly aside from a big argument that happened in, I think, round 4 or 5, something like that. Regardless, I think a big problem was whoever you hired. I think it was, I don't want to besmirch any name of any company. So if someone knows exactly who ran this event, please put it in the comments below. But whoever ran this event clearly did not have the manpower to run both main and side events. You need to hire 2 separate companies. I get it, it costs money, but you make so much money making the One Piece card game, making the Digimon card game, making Dragon Ball, making Gundam, making Union Arena. You got the budget for it. This is supposed to be your main event, Bandai. And if it's really that much of a budget issue, don't have two. Don't have 2 card fests. Have 2 nationals, because we do have enough players for Digimon and One Piece to warrant it, but don't have 2 card fests. Stop doing that. If you don't have the budget for it, stop doing it. But if you do have the budget for it, use that budget. Have a second company handling the side events. You get, right then and there, twice as many employees handling this. And employees was a big problem you guys had. Something I was informed by as I spoke to the many people who worked this event is you guys faced an understaffing problem, and that is not Bandai's fault. I will defend Bandai on that. That is the fault of whoever they put in charge of running the event. This event had a lot of no-shows in terms of employees, which could have been prevented by having an abundance of employees. And I get it. There's a budget. There's an amount of employees you can afford to hire. But I would rather my event has 10 employees, 3 of which I didn't need, than 4 employees, and I'm in desperate need of 3 more. For the last 2 years, in August, I have been going to a convention in Columbus, Ohio called MatsuriCon. I am one of their dungeon masters there. And they have a method for their dungeon masters where they fit 4 of them into a hotel room, and that is paid for. That is something the dungeon masters don't have to worry about. They still have to fly in, they still have to drive in, they still have to do what it needs to get there, but they don't have to pay for an expensive hotel room. Personally, I go there occasionally with my father and my sister, so I don't want to room with a bunch of strangers when I could be rooming with my family. To compensate me for that, they usually take a quarter of the price of their hotel room, so the amount of budget they would have spent on me specifically, and they reimburse me for that. I can take as most extravagant a hotel as I want, or I can budget myself and take a hotel that costs less than the amount they were giving me. But I still get to room however I want. Bandai, just do that. I know that sounds really expensive, but again, don't have 2 events if you can't afford to keep one of them satiated. A good way to do this would be to have your employees room together, or reimburse them if they don't want to room together. That way they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to cancel on you. They are traveling across the nation to do a 1 weekend job for you. These are not your main employees. And if this is not a Bandai thing, this is a, Card Runner, whatever company they had running the event thing, then this complaint goes out to you instead. You need to hire more people. You need to hire more people than you think you need, so that when you get call-offs, you don't have a disorganized mess. But going back to my original statement here, it would be very helpful to you to have 2 separate companies handling your main and side event. That way they're not stretched too thin. The prize wall tickets are a fantastic idea. The better you do in side events, the more tickets you get. The more tickets you have, the more cool things you can obtain. In fact, you can obtain some things that national champion players are getting. They got serialized Ace, they got the uncut sheets of One Piece cards. I saw some really cool things for Digimon as well. But if I can't get into side events, I can't use those tickets because I can't obtain those tickets. So as cool as it was, it was kind of like just standing outside of a store and window shopping, which I could do at home for free. Another big problem is Bandai, from what I heard, and I would love someone in the comments to correct me if I'm wrong, Bandai doesn't want people to buy and sell these tickets. I heard rumors that some people got in trouble a few big events back, but if people can't buy and sell the tickets off each other, why are you handing out physical tickets, Bandai? This is just silly. You have so much emphasis on QR codes and logging into your Bandai account and roulette wheeling into maybe getting to participate in a side event, but the tickets are physical? You need to do this in the opposite direction. This is my suggestion. You need to go the opposite with this. Physical entry. So just me getting into the tournament, winning 2 rounds, losing in the 3rd round. Oh man, I lost. That's a bummer. How many tickets did I win? Oh, I won 3. That's cool. Here's my Bandai barcode. Scan. 3 tickets have been added to my account. Okay, well, how many do I have? Oh, my account says I have, 105. Cool. Go over to prize booth. Scan. Oh, well, minus 100 tickets. Prize Luffy card, please. Simple as that. You also prevent the issue of somebody just walking up to people and saying, hey, I'll give you $20 for that ticket. I'll give you $20 for that ticket, $20 for that ticket. And eventually this guy buys pays $3,000 to get tickets and then buys a $5,000 card. Did he earn that? No. I mean, well, he earned the money to earn that. So in the economical sense, yes, the man did earn that. But did he earn it by being good at the card game, which is what these prize cards are supposed to be? No. I'm not saying you can't buy prize cards. In fact, people do it all the time. I plan to buy a super pre-release Luffy someday, once either the price goes down or sometime I make it big and I'll buy one. But it's not earned. And I assume, based on the way Bandai is doing things, they want their prize cards to be earned, not purchased mid-event. And that's what's happening. So my suggestion to you, Bandai, is to make the cards digital and the entry to the side events physical, rather than the way you have it right now. Because Bandai, if you didn't want the tickets to be bought or sold, you wouldn't have made them physical in the first place. That's the message players are receiving. I know I said this a little earlier in the video, but signs. Oh, you guys just need signs. You need big signs hanging from the ceiling that says, side events here, a big sign on the ceiling that says Gundam event here, a big side event that says, big sign event where it tells people a sign to find the signs. We just need signage. We just need to know where things are. Velvet ropes, tape on the ground, something to let people know where they're going to get things done. That fight at 7 a.m. on Sunday could have been prevented with a simple line starts here sign. Bandai. You didn't even have to put it outside where someone could pick it up and move it. You could have put it right behind the glass of the door so that people would walk up and see it. But you didn't. And now that fight will forever be something that is mocked about card players, because that's the kind of reputation they get. They don't see our Yugis and Kaibas, they see our Rexes and Weevils. Next up is the stream. I think the stream was a good idea. I think the stream was, the way you guys had it set up was a good idea. But it is clear that this idea was not exactly fleshed out. It led to a lot of dead air, led to a lot of people just sitting there watching a white screen, and just kind of a vague schedule of what might come up. You guys had on your bulletin board, like round 4 of the One Piece card game happening at 2:15 p.m. Round 2 didn't even start at 2:15 p.m. So clearly nobody actually timed anything out on this schedule. The only things that happened on time were the card dev moments, which I don't think they were pre-recorded events, but they were definitely practiced and ready and prepared because there's a schedule to follow. A way to fix this would have been the main tournaments on 4 separate, streams. Just do that. Make separate streams. Have the tournaments happen. People tune into those because there are a lot of people who play your games and don't care about who's talking or what's happening in the main stream. They just want the card to come out, they put the card in their deck, they play the game. They watch other people play the game. Make streams of people playing the game. This isn't me saying get rid of the original stream, but I think it would be better if the alleged 5th stream, if the middle stream, the stream of Bandai consciousness, if you will, was filled with videos. You have a dedicated community of amazing people who make little skits about your card game or full-on matches about your card game. There are some people I follow. I've been following on YouTube since before the games even became popular. And maybe being able to watch them or have them as bumpers between events and such, this would be a great method to A, have something other than just white screen, but B, have a connection to your community and showcase some of the cooler members who are making content that you guys could, all you would have to do is just invite them out, maybe give them a free pass or something. But then you could just use their videos as, a way to fill the air. My final suggestion, Bandai, would be to let your pride go. I get it. You have an idea. You have how you want things to happen, and it didn't happen that way, so clearly it's your fault, players, not ours. We didn't mess up at all. We did everything correctly. It's us who hired the company whose judge leaked the QR code, but somehow that's your fault for taking advantage of the fact that we gave you a QR code. Bandai, Pokemon has been making English tournaments for years. Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, there are card companies just as big, some are bigger, some are smaller, than you, who do English tournaments amazingly, who do English events amazingly. And Bandai, the One Piece Day showed me that you can be a part of a successful event. I don't know how much of One Piece Day was run by Bandai itself, but I know a good chunk of it was, because there were 3 regionals going on there. You have the ability to flesh this out into the strongest card company in America. You could take over. You could beat Pokemon. You could beat Magic the Gathering. I think you already did beat Yu-Gi-Oh!, but I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh! Since I was a kid, so I can't really vouch on that one. And I don't play Magic and Pokemon, but I know they're huge. Regardless, you need to learn how these companies did it right so that you guys can start doing it right too. In conclusion, Bandai Card Fest was fun. I did enjoy it. Like I said, I know I keep praising the scavenger hunt, but the scavenger hunt was a lot of fun, and it was probably one of the highlights for me. But I got to hang out with my friends, we got to talk, we got to play card games, I got to meet new people, I met a store owner from another state, I met this person who makes stickers, he was a cool guy. I have met so many individuals thanks to this card game, and I hope to meet many, many more. But I won't if you guys fall apart like this. I know you have a lot of videos out there that are mad at you. There's a lot of content creators who are just saying this sucked and Bandai, you need to do better. I hope you take some of my suggestions into account. Again, not an economist. I don't know anything about event organization. These are just things that I think might help, and these ideas definitely need to be fleshed out more. So if someone in the comments knows anything about event planning, if anything I said sounds like it would fall apart immediately, or if it sounds like a great idea and we should do it, please let me know. But I hope this finds the ears that it needs to, because I want to see Bandai Card Fest in Nevada, Las Vegas. I would love to see it thrive, whether I can actually get to it or not. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep trying to get an invite. My brother will probably get an invite, so we'll fly out there anyways. But I would love to be there myself with my own invite. I got really close in this one event that I went to, but that's not enough. That's me bragging about myself. So Let me know in the comments below, those of you who are watching, is there a way to improve Bandai Card Fest, or is it just going to get worse and worse? And if I was rambling for too long, well, this is one of my longer videos. I'm actually quite passionate about wanting this to improve. So, thank you for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video. This is the Hero of Julios, Xing out.